Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on Celtics Digest. And we are doing our weekly stream today on Wednesday. It's just me today. No Patrick, as he has some plans today, which is all good. We do have to discuss a lot about this Boston Celtics team as we get ahead into tonight's contest versus the New York Knicks in Game 2 at home, where everyone is speaking out about this. So we're going to dive in. We're going to explore a lot of topics about this Celtics team as we gear up for Game 2. We're going to dive in and explore some injuries, and if some more injury updates as well come through as we are live, we will definitely get into those. We'll go over some possible changes that the Celtics could use if there are some injuries implied into today's contest. And also, we're going to look at other ways that the Boston Celtics can kind of bounce back from this Game 1 loss and really get into full swing for Game 2. So we'll be doing all of that and more in this live stream here on Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez. Thank you to everyone that is hanging out with us on this Wednesday afternoon / evening. If you have any questions revolving around the Celtics team as well, don't feel shy. Feel free to drop down your comments down below, and we will get to answering those as well. But before we dive into injury updates, before we dive into any game plans for the Boston Celtics, Celtic was awarded another award today, and we dropped a video talking about this player getting an award on our channel just a couple of days ago. And once again, they're getting some more recognition. So I wanted to give them that shine of light here on this stream as we saw Jrue Holiday win another award here this season. He won the Social Justice Champion Award. He also won, the best, most respected teammate or most player around the league, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Championship Award for Jrue Holiday. Once again, very well deserving of this. And Joe Mazzulla had some stuff to say on this as well, and I did retweet it, so I do want to pull it up for you guys here, where Joe Mazzulla said, "We've got a lot of guys with high character," and says Joe Mazzulla says of Jrue Holiday winning the NBA Social Justice Award. And it's great to see that he get noticed, and I'm happy for Jrue. And I'm very happy for Jrue as well in that regard as well for winning this award. So congratulations to Jrue Holiday on this. But let's dive in and let's get into some interesting stuff revolving around this Celtics team. As like I mentioned, hit the wrong button. That's the Suns one, but here we are. Like I said, the Celtics here are gearing up for their Game 2 matchup versus the New York Knicks. And we saw a dominant, performance from the Boston Celtics in the first half in Game 1 versus the New York Knicks, but a little bit of a lackluster performance offensively from the Boston Celtics in that second half, with a lot of three-point shot opportunities that did not seem to fall. And there's a lot of breakdown, obviously, going over that as well. But first, I want to get into some players regarding some injuries, as obviously the Celtics have two players to kind of monitor going into today's game here with injury updates, and we haven't gotten full clearance, like I mentioned, on these players so far ahead of tonight's contest. And like I mentioned, I have everybody that writes for the Celtics notifications on my phone, so we will see it whether I miss it off of someone tweeting it out, if it's a reporter, or someone retweeting it, or the Celtics even tweeting it themselves. But like I mentioned, we do have an update here for the Celtics regarding two players, and Sam Hauser and Kristaps Porziņģis. We know with Kristaps Porziņģis, we talked about both of these players in yesterday's video. With He's dealing with this illness. He is probable for today's contest. He has been shown at the TD Garden already, showing up and, trying to get into the swing of things for the Celtics. I don't believe I've seen an update of him on the court yet so far for the Celtics so far. But dealing with this illness, a non-COVID one, and Noah Dalzell did report yesterday that this illness is connected to the one that he was suffering this season earlier. Now, obviously, we don't know the lengths of this illness revolving around Kristaps Porziņģis. The Celtics have been very secretive on that side of things of this type of illness and how it is affecting Kristaps Porziņģis. We do know that Kristaps Porziņģis fought through that before, when he was dealing with it earlier this season, and was able to come back and produce pretty solid. So hopefully Porzingis can kind of get through this as well. We have seen Porzingis not look the greatest so far in this playoffs, right? Even in the Orlando Magic series, to start off things, he was not great. He had some flashes, in Game 3 in that earlier first half where he looked a little bit better offensively, but overall in that Orlando Magic series, he wasn't necessarily needed for the Boston Celtics to really thrive, as they won 4 of those 5 games without Kristaps Porzingis playing at his his peak. And we saw in the game on the other night with the Celtics taking on the New York Knicks that with Porzingis, they seemed to struggle, or with Porzingis, they seemed to struggle a little bit as well. So having Porzingis hopefully back, and like Patrick and I said, at around 85% would be key for the Boston Celtics to really kind of get into the swing of things and be able to utilize him to his best ability. I'm hoping that Porzingis, once again, can be ready to go. And if he is ready to go, hoping that he is in that 85% category of ready to make an impact for the Celtics team, because he hasn't really made one so far in the playoffs so far for this team. And then regarding Sam Hauser, he was shown today as well at practice alongside Kristaps Porziņģis. Porzingis was working out at practice today. Sam Hauser doing some stationary shooting closer to the basket here. And for Sam Hauser, obviously, he got that ankle injury. He is listed as doubtful, someone that I think is going to be a little bit of a player that we don't see tonight. And I think for the Celtics, obviously, if he is ready to go, we will see him. But I think more leaning on the other side of not. And Daniel Donabedin just tweeted this out. So as we're talking about Kristaps Porziņģis, and I talk about not getting updates of Porzingis, right? Let's look at what Daniel Donabedin tweeted out, because I just saw that he is warming up and doing some stuff. Here he is. Justin Turpin has this as well. Porzingis taking the floor for the Celtics. So we do know, hit the settings button right there. Don't know if you guys saw that, but we do know that Porzingis is taking the floor for this Celtics team and is gearing to come back, which is very, very good for this Celtics squad. And hopefully we do see him. With Sam Hauser, I do think it is a little bit more questionable for him. And then that kind of gets into who's going to replace Sam Hauser, right? Who's going to really come in and take this role from him if the Celtics are not utilizing him tonight, right? They obviously need that three-point shooting. We saw in last game as well with them struggling from three-point range, shooting 15 from 60. I mean, 45 missed threes. That even if they are struggling, they're still going to go to that shot and they're still going to utilize it, right? And Sam Hauser brings that ability for the Celtics. So subtracting that three-point shooting and someone that can get hot for the Celtics, who's going to be that player to replace him? And Patrick and I kind of went into this in yesterday's video as well, but I saw a tweet from someone that writes from the Celtics blog, and I wanted to bring this up here for all of us to discuss. This is from Robbie Fletcher, and he broke down with Sam Hauser out, he has to assume one of Tory Craig or Baylor Shireman's get a few minutes to spell for one of the Jays. And these are the two players that Patrick and I discussed as well. His thinking is leaning towards more Tory Craig, and that's where I sided, where Patrick went a little bit with Baylor Shireman. His reasoning, he would get the nod, is he'd slide more naturally into Hauser's role, giving them also a defensive edge with enough ball shooting to keep New York honest. And I realistically think to kind of match that wing size, specifically even with the aggressive nature of Josh Hart as well, being an aggressive rebounder, the player that would get the nod, in my opinion, as well, alongside Robbie's, would be Tory Craig, because he has that veteran experience. He can still decently hit that three-point shot, but having another defender as well, kind of combat and throw at these New York wings to even give Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown a little bit of an extra leeway in getting a mismatch could be key for the Celtics, getting 6 to 8 points in a swing of a run that could potentially lead to them winning the game. So in my opinion, I'd give the nod to Tory Craig. Obviously, Baylor Shireman has that offensive ability, and I would not be shocked if he got the opportunity as well, but he's a little bit more of a ball handler and a guy that's going to kind of create his own shot for this Celtics team here, and the Celtics do need that shot creation. Maybe they go towards him, but with Peyton Pritchard having a fantastic game one, we're hoping that he can continue that, and Derrick White can also get into that premier shot creation as well from three-point range for the Boston Celtics to really take them over the top in this game too. And my boy Crampy is in here as always. Shout out to my boy Josh Crampton. Warm-up is a great sign for Kristaps Porziņģis, and I completely agree, Cramp. This is what you want to see for KP, right? We want to see him out there. We want to see him at least be functional, helpful for this Celtics team, working down low in the post. We saw with Kristaps Porziņģis, right, this season versus the New York Knicks in those 4 games where the Celtics swept them in the season series, that he was a vital part for the Celtics' success, right? Especially in that one of the games in New York. I believe it was the last game where he was taking some deep three-pointers alongside Jayson Tatum, and they were utilizing Kristaps Porziņģis and Luke Kornet in those double big lineups. I do think the Boston Celtics will go back to that and kind of utilizing that strength once again here tonight, kind of leaning into that, especially with Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns, trying to draw Karl-Anthony Towns out of the paint to allow a guy like Kristaps Porziņģis to be able to succeed as well outside with having Luke Kornet on him. I think that is kind of the success for the Boston Celtics, and we'll have to see what they kind of put into play here. Now, there is no injury update at the moment that I am seeing. So, with that being said, we're going to dive in and we're going to look at what really needs to change for this Boston Celtics team heading into game 2. And if you got any thoughts, let me know them down below in the comment section. But we're going to pull up this game cast here on ESPN for all of you so you guys can see this, right? Obviously, Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics are the 10-point, almost 11-point favorites, in this contest versus New York. Wow. I'm honestly shocked that they're that high. They're really betting on the Celtics to bounce back. We all know from the comments from Joe Mazzulla, from Derrick White, and yesterday's off day that they are prepared to bounce back. They are ready for this, and they are not going to shy away from any competition. We know this Boston Celtics team, and I saw before I went live, shout out to my boy Ian Angelo, who dropped a video on the Boston Celtics as well for his preparations for this game. In his video, he talked about how the Celtics are 20-2 this season, including the playoffs, following a loss, which is just a fantastic stat to hear. So obviously back in the home got good looks from 3-point range. A majority of the shots were wide open, so the Celtics are going to take those opportunities. But if the Celtics feel that some of those threes aren't falling, or maybe they feel like, hey, an opportunity to drive would make sense, I think they should kind of take it to the rack a little bit more, right? Kind of realize the mismatches that they have. If Jayson Tatum has a Jalen Brunson on him, realize the size advantage and take him to the rack. And even if it forces out someone to, even if it forces a pass, and at least someone is crashing and cutting to the lane to at least get something for the Boston Celtics. Next, obviously, the next point I want to talk about was the Celtics regarding their hack a Mitchell strategy, right? And we saw this being utilized for the Boston Celtics in the first game where there were a lot of fouls called, right? Luke Kornet got into some early foul trouble. Kristaps Porziņģis got into some early foul trouble. Karl-Anthony Towns on the New York Knicks side got into some early foul trouble. And I think there's a little bit of a solution kind of solving this problem for the Boston Celtics. And for me, I think that solution is substituting in Neemias Queta. We've seen Queta work pretty solid in some of these lineups, right? And I think if you want to have someone hack Mitchell Robinson, Queta is the perfect guy to do so, right? We all know Queta has those really easy foul tendencies, but I feel like he could also in the past. So I truly think that the Boston Celtics, if Mitchell Robinson, and this is only if Mitchell Robinson is the only center on the court, right? If Karl-Anthony Towns is out there, if they're running the double big, this is not something I'm doing. But if you have Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench, regardless if it's foul trouble, regardless if he's taking a little bit of a rest and they only have Mitchell Robinson in, sub Neemias Queta in for 3-4 minutes, right? And put him on Mitchell Robinson and have him hack him, right? So you don't have a player like Porzingis, Kornet, Horford getting into that foul trouble for the Boston Celtics, and then they're ultimately not struggling with that. Those guys have a little bit of a break, they have some fresher legs, but not only just that, they get the ability to play in those late game scenarios when the Celtics do necessarily need them the most. And I think that is key. They can pick up some late fouls and it won't really affect them. And once again, if this game goes to overtime or it is in some late game scenario, crunch time moments like we saw in game 1, they'll have the availability of those guys and have no worry of them picking up a foul or two because they don't have those already attached to them from the earlier parts of the game. I personally think that that would be a home run swing for this Boston Celtics team in doing that. And then ultimately, like I said, if the threes are open, taking those threes and kind of living and dying by the three, the Celtics will do that. They always do that. But I truly do believe that if you're the Boston Celtics and you have the opportunity to get multiple passes and to have this great ball movement that we've seen in the past, to work that on the New York Knicks. Find those mismatches, right? The Knicks were switching a lot on the Boston Celtics in these games, and Joe Mazzulla did realize that after game 1, so I do expect the Boston Celtics, they did like the switches, but I do expect them to utilize that a little bit differently. And obviously, I expect my guy and Jayson Tatum, who I am representing today, obviously all the Celtics merch, we're getting ready for this game. And for Jayson Tatum, obviously, we need to have a great performance. We've seen Jayson Tatum specifically coming off that injury, really bounce back in game 3, 4, and 5, having 3 straight 35-point games. And I think we're going to see something very similar from Tatum tonight. I'm feeling that type of energy where the Celtics feel disrespected, right? The New York Knicks came into their building. They stole game 1 from this team, right? And that's the scariest part about this Boston Celtics squad is obviously the injuries catching up to them, but they can't lose these home games. And obviously the Cavs are down 0-2, the Thunder lost, the Timberwolves lost as well. So all these other teams across the league at home have already lost. So it's not that big of a stain for the Boston Celtics. But tonight is the most must win ever, right? And I feel like we said that last game in game 5, right, with Orlando, like this was a must win, and even game 1 was a must win as well for the Boston Celtics. But I feel like tonight this is the night that the Celtics have to come out and prove to TD Garden that they can get it done, right? Like we mentioned, they're 10.5 point favorites. I personally think that they will hit this mark, even though it is a little bit shocking to see on the betting books, because I do believe this Boston Celtics team is hungry and is going for revenge. I think they will win by 12 points. But I do see it being close. I do see it being back and forth with Jalen Brunson, with Karl-Anthony Towns, utilizing these wings. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown really having that energy that they're going to have to bring to tonight's game. But then you're going to see, obviously, in those late game heroic time where we saw the Celtics struggle late, I feel like they're going to come out and they're going to dominate. We're going to see some late game heroics. Jrue Holiday is going to make some big, impactful plays on the defensive end once again tonight, like he did similarly in game 1, where he was once again a resurgence. And I feel like the Celtics are ready to take control. Everyone else, I feel like, says that as well tonight, but I really do feel that. We got Rock in here as well. You're right. Let's weaponize these. Let's weaponize. Let's go Celtics. I completely agree. And my boy Cramp also as well. The energy is about to shift. I completely agree with both of you guys. I'm feeling a huge win tonight. I know every Celtics fan obviously wants to see that, but you got to get this win to get back on track, right? Go into MSG tied 1-1 and really prove to New York that we are the dominant team, right? Win game 2, win game 3, try to win game 4 and solidify it in 5. If you can't win game 4, it's okay. Come back to TD and clean up the series, winning the last 2 and getting that extra rest, because we've seen with Indiana and Cleveland, obviously, these last couple of games that Indiana's going to steal a couple with them stealing these last 2, and Cleveland's dealing with some injuries, right? So it's a little bit of a tough matchup for Cleveland here. That series might be a little bit over faster than many of us anticipated or expected, but that the Celtics want to try to finish up this New York Knicks series or get back into the series at first, but then try to finish up this series after getting back into it as quick as possible so that they can take care and get some rest once again, gearing up for Indiana in a rematch, or obviously looking forward to Cleveland. But I'm very excited for this game tonight versus the New York Knicks. We still have no injury update revolving around. Oh, as I'm saying that, we just get it. Wow. I love how that works out, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm going to pull up the tweet right here because I just tweeted it out. But we have the news for the Boston Celtics here regarding their injuries, courtesy of Jay King of The Athletic. Shout out Jay King. But Kristaps Porziņģis is listed as officially available. That is right. Porzingis is here. Sam Hauser has been ruled out. Kind of feel like that's what we anticipated, what we talked about in this stream as well. But Porzingis, someone who was shown at practice, was shown coming out on the court for warm-ups, once again will be available for the Celtics, and I expect him to start in that starting lineup alongside Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, and Jrue Holiday. Sam Hauser will be out tonight, so someone will be brought off the bench for this Celtics team. And like we discussed, we think it's potentially either Baylor Shireman for that offensive creatability or Tory Craig for the wing size, veteran presence, someone who's been there in that moment and also can hit a pretty wide open 3 if he is gifted, can match up pretty decently on a guy like Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and hold his own. I don't think Jordan Walsh also could potentially be thrown in there, but I think he's not someone that's going to be mentioned just due to the fact that, in my opinion, I think he's just not going to get called up. I think Tory Craig's higher than him in that rotation for the Boston Celtics, and they play a similar role. Even though he could provide the defense, I don't know if his offense could really help out the Celtics in a moment like this. But ultimately, just because he's not ready for it, I think eventually he could. But ultimately, I think we're going to see Tory Craig come off the bench for the Celtics. Maybe we see a mixture of both, right? Maybe we do see Tory Craig get potentially uh, 8 minutes, And then we see if he does solid in those minutes, he still gets to continue to play. Or if Baylor Scheierman does decent, then maybe he can play. Or if Baylor Scheierman does good, then he plays. Or if one of them gets in and doesn't play great, maybe the other one steps up and takes their role in the second shift. Joe Mazzulla is definitely going to get creative. He obviously probably knew that Sam Hauser was going to be ruled out going into this game, so strategically has already decided in his brain who is going to get those minutes, who is going to be getting that playing time. And like I said, I personally think it's going to be Tory Craig just because of that veteran presence, but I would not be shocked if it is Baylor Scheierman. Rock saying, bring in the sniper Baylor. He can play defense too. I agree that Baylor can play that defense. He's got that hustle. He's got that heart. I just don't necessarily know if Joe Mazzulla is going to go with the rookie over someone who was brought in on the buyout market specifically for a moment like this, right? We all know that a guy like Tory Craig was available via trade, but was released by the Bulls just because he was not going to help them in the regular season. He was going to be an extra depth piece in the playoffs. And I do think that a guy like Tory Craig will get that nod over Baylor Scheierman in this moment. But once again, like I said, I would not be shocked if either or got the call for tonight's game. Once again, I think the Celtics are going to come out victorious tonight. I said a 12-point win. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section, but I'm excited for this game. I'm going to be signing off just because I feel like I'm repeating myself at this moment. Obviously, with Patrick doing a duo, it's a little bit easier. But at this moment, we kind of went over everything. We got the injury update for this Boston Celtics team. Porzingis is available. Sam Hauser has been ruled out of this contest. Hopefully, we get to see the Celtics pull out a victory. I will be giving you guys a post-game video following the contest tonight, regardless if the Celtics win or the Celtics lose. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this Celtics team, you know what I always say. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to hit the subscribe button as well to stay up to date on everything. Because like I said, we have these weekly streams every single Wednesday. We break down the Celtics team, go over some playoff previews, discuss what's happening. And once the season's over, right, we're still going to continue to do these streams. We're still going to have these videos going over stuff that happens throughout the playoffs and then post-playoffs. Looking at the draft, looking at potential picks the Celtics could take. Could the Celtics trade up in the draft because they have an early second round pick? And if so, who could they take with that pick to fill in a veteran ready need if one of the guys leaves in free agency or if the Celtics make a trade to save some salary cap? What are potential free agents that could come to Boston? All of that will be discussed in the offseason and getting closer to the end of the season towards the end of the playoffs. But if you want to stay up to date on everything like that as well, you're interested, this is the place for you. So like I said, make sure to hit the like, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate all you guys for coming out here, hanging out and joining and talking to me. I'll catch you guys in the next stream or next video. Have a great rest of your night. Hopefully the Celtics prevail, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.